Hey everybody, it's Magoo in the dojo. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. It's nice, it's hot out, and normally if I'm up this time thinking about making a video or just talking into the camera, and something's grinding in my head, and it's usually something personal. And this one is not. I just can't sleep through this one, and it's about that Raja Jackson wrestling stew pummeling incident, and a lot of the videos I've watched since. And it's kind of like, why is this get so much traction, and why are there so many big burly alpha male fighter men hurt today by this? Why does it seem like they're all out there like sort of conflicted, upset, cursing, kind of lost, kind of mad? And it's because it hits on a number of different levels, from dad to fighter to man to sensitive man, to boxing fan, to wrestling fan, to a reverence for all of these sports, to sort of a sensitivity to the bully. That to a lot of big burly guys became big burly guys, not because they want to be bullies, but because they want to be the hero. I have a friend who became a big bodybuilder. Why? Because he was bullied younger, and later on, when the kids who bullied him saw him as a bodybuilder, they got on the other side of the street. Sometimes it's as simple as that. But, to watch a young man do something so dumb, to me, it's as dumb as taking these kids who get a Beamer for graduation and then drive 110 miles and crash before prom, because they're not prepared for that situation. But how do you not know you're in a wrestling situation versus an MMA situation? Like, what kind of situational awareness defect do you have to think that, like, you're gonna go in and get even with a guy who did such an obvious wrestling thing? It was such a goof. And people, we know wrestling is entertainment, wrestling. And some of us have a very serious weird reverence for wrestling. Like, I'm an MMA guy, I'm a fighter. We're all like, wrestling's fake, wrestling's dumb. But why do we all have sort of like this reverence for it anyway? And there's a number of reasons, some odd and some not so odd. One is because those guys are hard workers. They're more like, it's a cross between actors, stuntmen, and athletes, because they play a role, they do incredible physical crazy feats, and then they line up after and sign autographs for little kids. And there's sort of like this heroic big man thing to that. They're not out, even the bad guy, it's usually an act. So, and wrestling goes back generations, and people, like, my mom was a total liberal hippie type who you wouldn't think would like anything like wrestling. She loved wrestling. We used to all watch it as a family. I knew a lot of people. I have friends like this dude I know in the Bronx who I met through an MMA training thing. We're still kind of friendly on Facebook. He had this Bronx Latin upbringing, and I had this Brooklyn, like, Jewy upbringing. We were watching the same stuff, doing the same things, into the same kind of music. We grew up like in these parallel lives. And my mom loved wrestling. My mom was a my mom and I are in agreement, or were in agreement, that Bob Backlund was the worst choice to replace Bruno Sammartino as champion. It's one of the worst choices in wrestling or fighting history. But, I'm digressing and I'm joking, but we know that wrestling is entertainment. When two wrestlers are working up a match, they're not backstage meditating and punching walls and thinking back on their training and getting their hands taped. They're backstage hanging out together and saying, all right, so we got 4 minutes. I'm going to win this. You're going to lose this. How about I come out, I do the first move, or we'll do this and that. We'll jockey back and forth. We'll do a judo thing. I'll go into a flip. We'll work out a suplex. Then you switch it and reverse it. We'll do this, that. They write it on a napkin. They kind of work it out. They get a couple of safe words, so if one guy's hurting or something, they know how to get out of it. And then they work up an act, and they go through the motions, and the thing is that. So we understand that that's sort of how wrestling is. It's not a combat sport between two combatants starting from scratch who are just gonna, whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. It's an entertainment. It's an act that happens to involve the simulation, and very strong and very close, tight simulations of physical acts, of martial arts, of fighting, of combat, but you have to understand what realm you're in. So when that guy, Stu or whatever, I saw the video of him crushing the can on the dude's head, And it was so obviously a bit. It was just, you can see, he didn't smash on his head like walking up to a guy, a bully in a bar, and smash on his head. He did the whole pronounced foot stomp, and the can was so obviously pre-crushed, and a little bit of liquid in it, and it just went badooey, and he even held the head in a way. He grabbed his head like a wrestler to make sure that his head didn't hit the can too hard, so he probably didn't even leave a mark. It was just kishish real quick, just like a pro. And the other guy, like a pro, and the son of a who grew up around fighting, should know the difference between MMA and insult and wrestling, and should have done something. And the guy said it flat there. He goes, "Aren't you going to sell it? Aren't you, like, why are we here?" And when you're at work, there's an assumption that the coworkers have your best interest at heart. They're not out to get you or hurt you. And if they are, that's a big problem for the organization. And this is why this is going to end in him going to jail, because now it's on the organization. And this is more about law and just nonsense. And I'm not a lawyer, but I can just tell you as a business administrator what would happen here. The organization almost certainly has to make this into a criminal complaint. So that way Raja Jackson is to blame for everything, and the insurance company doesn't have to pay off on Stu's damages necessarily right away. What will have to happen is Raja Jackson will pay criminal charges, and he'll have to go to jail, and then anybody who wants to claim after that will make a civil suit. And so there'll be a civil suit against him and the fight committee, and the promotion, and maybe the venue, and maybe whoever the ref was supposed to be, and all those people will be named in a civil suit, saying that you owe this guy a lot of money for what he did for your company, which was to lay there and get his face beat in by somebody for no reason. And that's not part of the act. It's not what he signed up for. It's not in his job description. And if he had died, it would have been even different. So they're going to throw Raja Jackson under the bus, and he deserves it. Afterwards, there'll be a civil suit, and that's when the insurance company will have to pay up. Whoever loses that civil suit, will have some responsibility, and a judge and a jury will say how much money they would have to pay in damages. That's where that is. So that guy Stu, either way, he's got a long road to go. I mean, he didn't expect to get his face beat. I think he was expecting to just, he didn't know. He's just doing his job and figured he'd go through about, and it would be what it would be, and he'd be shaking, hands with little kids and signing autographs and posters, and instead he's, in the hospital spitting chiclets from something that's supposed to be an act. And I think that's really what pisses off fighters and big burly men more, is that there's this, it's the combination of, as men we're like, it's cowardly, but then as fathers we're like, who teaches their son to stand over a prone person and pound their face in? There's something so, like every dad would grab their kid by the hair and say, "What are you fucking doing? That's not what we do. That's not manly. That's not who we are. That's not tough. That's not cool. That's fucked up. Did I teach you that? I didn't teach you that." Now, I saw Rampage Jackson. I saw his dad watching it, and that's how he looked, horrified, like a dad. And what he said was, he didn't say, I think it's a bit, or he said, I hope that's staged. I hope it's staged, because he knew it wasn't good. It wasn't right. But as a dad, you got to be going like, what the fuck did I do? What did I do to teach my kid? He can't tell the difference between a fucking fake thing and a real thing. His pride, his insecurity is so fucking powerfully fucked up that he has to pound a helpless dude who's laying helpless as an act. Like, he's laying on purpose. He didn't even give the guy a chance to fight back. He might have been able to kick the shit out of you. Who even knows? But it's not that realm. You're going into a Disneyland and punching somebody. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? And so I think this is an affront to the sport. It's an affront to people who train. It's an affront to people who bodybuild. It's an affront to tough men. It's an affront to dads, to wrestling fans. Any wrestling fan, me, I'm not even a big wrestling fan. If I went backstage at a wrestling show and a pro wrestler did the can thing on my head, I'd be fucking giddy for the rest of the day. It'd be like going to Gwar and getting fucking splooge and blood shot at you. It's like a badge of honor. You go on the train, you see other people with blood, go, hey, you were at the show, right? And the other people, the straighties on the train are like, why are these kids covered in blood? This is fucked up. And it's like, no, that's the game. That's the act. That was the fun. That was the joy. So this guy just sucked all the fucking joy and fun and life out of a sport that's already a knockabout, low-paying, total fucking sacrifice of a sport to begin with, or entertainment, or whatever the hell it is. So, man, that's why I'm conflicted today. As a dad, as a fan, as a certified judge and, you know, semi-certified retired ref. It just hurts. As a man, it fucking hurts to see as a dad. So best of luck to everyone. Many blessings, and gotta let it go after that. Peace out.